So, hello and welcome to this week's Mukurtu.net Office Hours, hosted by the Center for Digital Scholarship and Curation at Washington State University. We're teaming up with CODA, the Center for Digital Archaeology, to feature these bi-monthly webinars and trainings. You can sign up online at meet.mukurtu.net, and we'll send out invitations regularly. If you have topics you'd like us to cover, please let us know and we'll do our best to accommodate you. This is definitely a work in progress, so help us make it as useful as possible for everyone. Now, if you've attended one of our office hours before, you know that our usual host, Kelly, works for CODA, and together they manage Mukurtu.net. Mukurtu.net is the best hosting option on the net for anyone looking to build a safekeeping place for digital heritage without the hassle of running your own hosting environment. They work around the clock to make sure that all Mukurtu.net sites are safe, secure, and accessible forever. With guaranteed 99.99% uptime and 24/7 site support, you never have to worry about service outages. Their services and solutions are tailored to suit your content protocols, curation, and import needs. Now, I'm Michael Wynn, a digital applications librarian at the Center for Digital Scholarship and Curation at Washington State University, and we support Mukurtu.org. So through that, we provide support for the open source, freely available source code that powers Mukurtu, and we provide support for communities and users looking to run their own instance of Mukurtu. And thank you all for joining me today. So just very quickly, if you're new to Mukurtu CMS, let's talk a little bit about the pronunciation. As you've been hearing me say, it is Mukurtu. Mukurtu is the free and open source solution for Indigenous communities to manage and share digital cultural content. Mukurtu is a Waramungu word meaning dilly bag, which is a safekeeping place for ritual materials. Over the last 4 years, in partnership with CODA and other providers, we have worked on the Mukurtu project with a whole range of sponsors and great developers. We always like to give a big shout out to Canopy Studios, who are leading our current efforts on more development with Mukurtu, CODA, and our new hosting partner for CODA is Blackmesh. So they make sure that all the Mukurtu.net sites are available and secure. And there's, of course, a whole host of individuals and organizations around the world who have helped with leadership, volunteering, funding, and other goodwill and support towards the project. And we've been touched by so many people over the last couple of years. So just a little bit of housekeeping. This session is being recorded, and we're going to put it online so you can review it and other people can see it later. If any documents are mentioned throughout the course of today's presentation, I'll make those available as well. So today I'm going to be your presenter, but if you have any questions, please go ahead and put them up in the chat box in the training window over to your right, or there should be a little icon to raise your hand, and we can chat over audio as well. If you have any questions as we go, just let me know, and hopefully we'll get to them all by the end of the session. So, any questions before we go through the rest of the agenda? Looks like everyone's on the same page so far, so moving on. We've covered the first little bit, but I just want to let you know that next we're going to spend a few minutes going over a quick walkthrough of Mukurtu CMS 2.0, which is our latest release, and then we're going to dive in today a little bit deeper to some of the user roles and permissions that are built into Mukurtu, which really form sort of the key administrative structure of the sites. I'll keep our demonstrations short so that we may have some time for questions at the end. So today's goal, we've covered most of this already, but we're going to learn a little bit about Mukurtu CMS, the software, some of its core features, and the layout. If anybody wants an opportunity to play around with Mukurtu in the future, get in touch with us and we can set you up either in touch with CODA or through us with one of our public development sites, such as meet.mukurtu.net or the Sustainable Heritage Network, which is what I'm going to be showing today, so we can help you figure out if the software is a good fit for your needs. So this past spring summer, we launched the newest version of Mukurtu, Mukurtu CMS 2.0. It's been a little ways coming, but now it's ready. This is just a quick shot of a community page, which is sort of the main portal through which community members find access to their cultural heritage and manage cultural protocols. We're going to dig into this more later, but really users are gathered together through communities and protocols, so sort of the two groups that are used to manage users and provide access. And really the communities, the cultural protocols, and the users are the core elements of a successful Mukurtu site. In the newest version, we've added compatibility with a whole bunch more file types, so you can upload multiple different types of audio, video, images, documents. You can do some neat things as far as archival media management and providing different access to different versions and different copies of the same document. And of course, you can't see it here, but I'll show you in a few minutes. There's definitely a place available for community members to add and share their traditional knowledge and their sort of personal knowledge about cultural materials as well. It's worth mentioning that we have also just launched the newest version of Mukurtu Mobile. Mukurtu Mobile pairs with your pre-existing Mukurtu CMS site and allows you to capture and create content in the field and upload it to your CMS site when you come back into wireless range. I'm sure we're going to be running a webinar in the near future, and we'll talk more about that later. And finally, just a little bit more about the development. We're always looking for more people to work with, more communities, developers, projects. So if you think you have something you can add, or if you think there's something that we should add, please get in touch. We'd love to hear from you, and we're always looking for more people to work with. And a little bit about how to get Mukurtu yourself. Mukurtu CMS is open source, so if you go to our mukurtu.org website, there's links to downloading it through GitHub, so you can use that source code to configure it on your local server or computer. If you want to leave the technical aspects to someone else, you can always get in touch with Coda and the folks at mukurtu.net to talk about hosting. They provide a few different hosting solutions, all of which are excellent. So, and really, if you're not sure what's best, get in touch with us and we can help look through what your needs are and what you're interested in and help you find the best solution, really. So, just want to show you, well, why don't we start with a quick walkthrough of a live Mukurtu site. So I'm just going to jump over to, here we go. So this is, you're probably all, since you signed up for this webinar, aware of meet.mukurtu.net. This is our main sort of public access site. From the home page, you can see that you have options up at the top here. I'm just highlighting them to browse digital heritage, browse collections, learn a little bit more about the site. As you scroll down, you see the communities. And this is, I was talking earlier about groups of users. This is where that really comes into play. So I'm just going to open up the Plateau People's Web Portal. So this is a small demo community that we have going. So you can see every community can have a customized banner. You can customize thumbnails and do a whole lot. I'm logged in, so I can access the members along the right-hand side here, and I can see some of the protocols as well. So each community has within it a series of protocols, and that's what controls sharing and access to your media. So if you have a protocol that says, for example, there's one here that says public access, that means that anyone who is a member of that protocol, anyone is going to be able to see that material whether or not they're a member of the protocol. Sort of at the bottom of the list here, there's one that says community only. So that's a case where you would have to add members, very specifically add members to the protocol, and any items under that protocol are only going to be visible to people who are members of that protocol as well. Opening up a digital heritage item, I'm opening up this portrait here just to see what it looks like. So you can see that we have embedded media, and then that's sort of one of the core features of it. Then down along the right side of the screen, there's a whole lot of metadata. So it tells you what site community it's a part of, the relevant protocols, the category which we use for site-wide navigation, keywords which are kind of like social tags, so those are a little more freely assigned by users, and then a whole bunch more of that traditional metadata, so the date, creator, language, rights and licensing options, the source, publisher, identifier, and you can really add a whole lot more. Site members can comment and interact with items. You can see others' comments, if there were any, they would show up down at the bottom here. One neat aspect of the site, or of this record, is here we're looking at what's called the Plateau People's Web Portal record. That's the community that we came into. But there's another community, in this case, the ATOM 2015 Mukurtu Workshop record. So this item is shared with another community, and they have decided to add different information. So you can see the metadata along the right side has changed quite a bit. They've added different categories, they've added different languages, some different source information as well. Then down the bottom, they've added some more traditional knowledge. So this is information coming from one community, and they've also been able to embed an audio clip, which is quite neat. I'll just let that play for a moment. So this allows multiple communities with a shared history to add their own information, their own background on records that may be important to them. So just going back a bit, I'm also going to open up a new window where I'm not logged in. So what we were just looking at, I was registered as a member. I was part of that community. You can see now this page from meet.mukurtu.net. It's giving me the option to log in compared to before. It gave me the option to log out. So if I navigate to the same page, let's see the Plato People's Web Portal. And I'm just going to shrink that down a little bit so we can have them side by side and really quickly look here. So the most obvious difference is as a non-member, in this window over here on the left, I can't click on member names. So when I'm registered, I can interact with and view information about the members of the community. That's not the case here. Also, you can see that I don't have access to as many protocols. I have access to public access and the community shares protocol, but not, as you can see on the right here, the community-only protocol, because as a visitor to the site, I'm not registered in that. And you can even see there's been a new digital heritage item added here, and clearly that's got to be tied under one of the existing protocols because it's not appearing for me when I'm not logged in. So that just shows a little bit of the differing types of access that we have present and that we've built into Mukurtu, and those protocols really form one of our core features. All right, I'm just going to jump back over to my presentation. So we just took a quick look at meet.mukurtu.net. There's another site called Sustainable Heritage Network, which is another effort that WSU and CODA are involved in. I highly recommend that you all sign up for it. It provides access to resources for tribal archives, libraries, and museums. We were just showing at ATOM, and we're uploading a whole bunch more content, so I highly recommend signing up for the Sustainable Heritage Network. So this screen that you can see here, right up along the top, there's a whole bunch of buttons. So digital heritage, category, collection, community, cultural protocol, user, and some account information. This screenshot was taken when I was logged in as a site administrator, so I have a whole bunch of access to do things. In contrast, a visitor would see this. So someone who's not registered in the site, when they log in, they wouldn't have any of those buttons, any of those options to interact with the site. Now, most users are going to have something in between. So some members will be able to add digital heritage and cultural protocols and communities. Some will be able to add collections depending on their roles, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. So I'm going to make all of the following slides available after the session. There's a couple, but hopefully not too overwhelming. So this is a very high-level overview of the kinds of roles available to site users. If we're going over from left to right, you can see that the Mukurtu administrator has a lot of site-wide controls at their disposal. So they can add users, create communities, create protocols. They can do some other back-end stuff like batch import a whole bunch of data at once, and they can create categories for the site. Now, in theory, their responsibilities are going to fade over the time. They're really going to be involved in the setup of the site, creating the structure of the community's protocols, excuse me, and the categories, but they're not expected to be involved as much in the day-to-day and the cultural management. So the next community that we have is a community administrator. They have similar controls to the Mukurtu admin, but on a smaller scale. So they're going to have some of that same control over their communities. They're going to be able to add users to their given community, manage protocols for that community, and similar to that. The next tier down for access is the curator. So their big role is managing collections, which I didn't show you earlier, but I'll just hop over in a moment and give you a look at what a collection is. In short, a collection is a collection of pre-existing digital heritage items. So a curator would have access to the digital heritage present in a Mukurtu community, and then they can say, oh, we want to make, for example, an exhibit, or we want to just add a little more narrative to the whole process, and they can curate a little collection like that. Next is a general registered user. So a site member, someone who's authenticated by the site, you have to sign up, you get a username and a password. You can view and comment on digital heritage items, but really that interaction is going to be affected, as it is for everyone, by the membership that you have. So what communities you're a part of, what protocols you're a part of. And then finally, we have anonymous users. So visitors to your site who are not registered, who are not signed in, they're going to be able to view public digital heritage items, nothing with the strict protocol like I was showing earlier, nothing that had that community-only protocol. They'll be able to view the public ones. So it's interesting you'd be able to share some information with community members, but you can also restrict it as needed. Actually, I'm going to go back and quickly show you a look at collections since I mentioned them with the curator. So jumping back over to meet.mukurtu.net. Let's look at, oh, actually we can do it at the top. Right at the top of your standard site template, there's a Browse Collections button. So if we go to, say, Browse Digital Heritage, and it loads very slowly, just take a moment, this is going to show you all of the digital heritage items on your site, all of them. Well, everything that you, as a user, are allowed to see depending on your protocols. So you can see some nice photos from the workshop that we just gave, and some other test samples that we've uploaded. So again, from this browse view, we have down the one side you can filter by communities. And in this case, you're only going to be able to click on the communities. Actually, you're only going to see the communities that you're a part of. And then we have collections and categories. So I was talking a little bit about collections, and let's look at this batch imported items collection. So this is a demo collection that some folks have used. Normally when you browse digital heritage, it shows the items by order of recency, so what was most newly added or most recently edited. Within a collection, you can actually arrange them in a fixed order. So presumably whoever built the sample collection was doing so in a specific structure. The shell of a collection is publicly visible, so people can see that there's a collection there. But like we've seen with all the other digital heritage items, if you're not allowed to view an item due to its protocol, you're still not going to see it within the collection. So you may know that there's related items, but you won't actually be able to see any of them. Okay, so that's the role of the curator to manage those collections. Next, I want to talk about user permissions. So those roles were site-wide. Someone, well, at the base level, either you're a visitor to the site, and that would be an anonymous user, or you're a registered user. And registered user is the umbrella for everyone else. So curators are registered, community admins are registered, Mukurtu admins, they're all registered users, and that just is your general site-wide access. Next, each group has its own set of permissions. So when I say group, a group refers to either a community or a cultural protocol. So we have the two sides of the site, the two sides of the slide. Each community has cultural protocols nested within it. There are some protocols that can be shared site-wide depending on how you structure your site, but basically community is the big bucket, and then cultural protocols provides the access within that. So just going over left-right again, we have our anonymous users, so same thing, they'll be able to see public items, but they're not going to see anything that's within a protocol that they don't have access to. The next, just down at the bottom left-hand corner here for community member. So within a community, this is assuming that we're a registered user, any community member who's been added to that group can view and they can comment on digital heritage items depending on the cultural protocols. So even though you're part of a community, there still may be closed protocols within that community to which you're not privy to. Just above that, we have the community manager, and they're the ones who really, well, as it says, they manage the community. So they add members to the community and they create and manage the protocols. Within your community, you have protocols, and that's what we're looking at over on the right side of the screen. So down at the bottom, we have a protocol member. So that's an individual who's been added to a cultural protocol, whether that's a public, a strict protocol. They can view and comment on items that are within that protocol. Next, we have contributors. So this is the next level up. Rather than just an approved member who's allowed to view items, contributors can actually add and edit their digital heritage items. So they can add new media, they can add new records, and they can edit their own, but they can't edit other people's records. And then finally, we have the protocol steward up at the top here. So they're the ones who add members to protocols, similar in the same way that community managers add members to a community, and Mukurtu administrators add members to a site. Protocol stewards add members to a protocol. And they also manage the digital heritage items within that protocol. So if someone's made a mistake or included information that maybe they shouldn't, they do have the ability to edit other members' digital heritage items, which is unique to that role. So the next few slides aren't quite as attractive, I know. It's a matrix showing what we've just talked about. Again, I'm going to make these all available. I have one of these tacked up on the wall beside me while I work on sites, just so I can look at them and have a quick reference point to hand. This is, again, the site-wide user role. So similar to that very first colored slide that we looked at. It's representing what we see in this slide, just in a slightly different form. So you can see, let's look in the middle first, because it's the simplest. An anonymous user is just that unregistered site visitor. They can see things that are public. They're prompted to log into the site, and that's pretty much it. They're really not going to be able to interact with items at all unless you make very, very open protocols on everything, but we don't usually recommend that. But in theory, you could. So we'll follow the same structure we had before. Over on the right side, we have the site-wide roles, and you can really see the Mukurtu administrator has a lot of access. So they can edit the homepage, so sort of the structure of the website. They can view the dashboard, which is just a different sort of administrative view. They can manage collections as needed. Excuse me. They can add users, they can contact members, they can create communities, cultural protocols, categories, collections, digital heritage. So they can do a lot, but their access to items, their access to media is still restricted by cultural protocols. So they're going to be able to create them, but if they're not a member of a protocol, they're still not going to be able to view items within it. Next, we have the community administrator just beside them. So again, they can view a lot of things, very similar to the Mukurtu administrator. They don't have quite as many features. They don't add users to the site, but they do add users to communities. And they can create new communities, and they manage those. Next over is the curator, and really the main thing that they do is curators are responsible for managing those collections that we took a look at. So taking the digital heritage items created by members of the community and arranging them together. We already looked at the anonymous users. They can see a few things, but probably not that much. And then all the different registered users have very similar roles site-wide. So they're basically going to be able to, you can see all these grayed out boxes that say see group permissions. So if they're part of the right protocols and members of that communities, they'll be able to see and interact with items. If not, they can't, which is exactly how we wanted that set up. One thing that users can do is they can view and contact other users. So if you build out your user profile with contact email, personal information, other registered users will be able to see that and be in touch with you if that's something that you've enabled. So next, we're looking at communities and protocols that the user is not a part of. So if I navigate to a Mukurtu site and I'm not registered, or sorry, I'm registered for a site, but I'm not registered for specific communities and protocols, what am I going to see? Well, on the right side again, we have our anonymous user. They're not going to see, well, they're going to be able to see whatever you make public. So sort of, I'm going to go top to bottom, right to left. So they can see communities, they can see who's in the community, but they can't contact them. They can just see their usernames, rather. They can see public protocols, but they can't see strict protocols. They can see members of public protocols, but they can't see members of strict protocols. They can see public digital heritage items, but not strict digital heritage items. They can see the collection shell, but within a collection, if there's digital heritage items with the strict protocol, they can't see them. Scald, in this case, that's just different media types. So they can see media that has a public protocol. They can't see media that has a strict protocol. And they can see everyone's comments on items that they can view. So that's just your general anonymous user. Next, I'm just going to jump all the way over to the left. So a regular authenticated user, they can do a bit more than an anonymous user. So this is someone who's been added to a protocol or community. They can see the community. They can contact community members and view their profiles. They can see items that are part of a public protocol. If they're not a part of it, they can't see strict ones. Again, they can contact members. Otherwise, it's very similar to the anonymous user across the board. And really, most of this whole table shows the same thing. If you're not part of a community or a protocol, you can't see the items that are a part of it. If you are a part, they're shared with you. So what does it look like when you are part of a community or a protocol? That's what this table shows. So it's a little more interesting. So again, I'm just going to look at the anonymous user quickly. This table is showing us what can you do when you are a member of a group, of a community or protocol. Well, an anonymous user is by definition not a member of the community or protocol, so they can't interact with anything in that way. So over on the left side, we have the authenticated users again. They can view communities. Well, they can view the community that they're part of. They can view the membership of the community, and they can view all items that are part of the same protocol and community that they're a member of. The community manager can do a little bit more. So you can see that they can view and edit communities. They can add sub-communities. They can add and manage community membership. So if there's someone who's being given permissions to access something, they can control that. They can edit and add protocols, both open and strict within a community. The next one would be the cultural protocol steward. So they have slightly less control than the community manager. So they can see the community, but they can't create new ones. They also can't control community membership, but they can manage protocols. So while the community manager is going to create the protocol, so you can see that they can add protocols, they can't actually manage the protocol membership. That's the role of the protocol steward. So we really have set up Mukurtu so that it's somewhat compartmentalized. So you have the community manager builds the community and sort of lays out some of the basic protocols. The protocol steward adds more. So that the protocol steward is usually someone in the community who's a knowledge keeper, who has access and awareness of what kind of protocols are important. And then they manage membership. So to say, well, these individuals should have access to these materials. They make sure that they have that access through the site. And if something changes, so common protocols are related to age or gender. So if someone comes of age, then they may be added to a new protocol, so they can access materials that are meant for older viewers. Cultural protocol stewards can also manage and edit digital heritage items by other members within the protocol that they're a manager for, which sounds a little bit convoluted, but it works. And then finally we have the contributor, which they can view and contact other members. They can view items within protocols within which they are a member. But their main thing is editing and adding digital heritage items. So they can only create and edit their own digital heritage items. Contributors don't have the access to edit other people's items, unlike cultural protocol stewards. So you may have quite a lot of members of your community who are just contributors, but only a few who are protocol stewards, even fewer who are a community manager. And that really helps keep the site maintenance to a good level. So I know that was quite a lot of information to take in, but I just wanted to see if there were any questions before we move on, anything about Mukurtu in general, or about user roles and permissions in particular. So no one's typing up right now. We did have a question earlier that came in about language. We were talking with someone the other day, and they were asking about other language implementations for Mukurtu. So I just really wanted to show one example, and let me see if I can get our site to pull up in a decent time. So the basics of Mukurtu is built in UTF-8, so it will display other languages, pretty much any of the international language. This is an example from Musqueam. I'm not going to show you too much of the site, but the really important thing is the header here is in Hunkaminam. And I think if we go through and look at some of the samples, you'll see the other examples of Hunkaminam language. So we can certainly display other languages in the site. I know in this case that we were being asked, here we go. Here's another one you can see. The title of this house post up in Musqueam, BC is Capilano. That's my pronunciation of it. That's not accurate. But you can see that we are displaying as text other languages. So that's something that is built into Mukurtu. As far as a full other language install, I know we were asked earlier about specifically Spanish. At the moment, we don't have any non-English installs of the site. It's something that we're going to talk about probably, and we'll see what happens. But if it's something you're interested in, the more voices that chime in, the more likely we are to be able to look at something like that. So if you really want to see customization, or if you think there's wide demand for something like that, let us know. Please get in touch with us, and that's something we can look into. So just wrapping up, we do our best to hold these sessions every 2 weeks. I think we're going to be off a little bit this month. None of these topics are set in stone, so if there's something you would like to learn more about or hear about, please get in touch with us. Odds are someone else is interested as well, and we'd love to be able to share that information. So please get in touch with us. You can reach me. My name again is Michael at support@mukurtu.org. If you want to learn more about hosting, you can reach Kelly and the rest of the CODA team at support@mukurtu.net. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you'll come back to our next office hour in a couple of weeks. Have a good day.